Hi everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Laura, and if you're new here, I talk about tech, career, productivity, and other life advice. Today's video is going to be the New Grad Survival Guide Part 2, so if you missed Part 1, you can click up in the cards here, and I'll also link it down below in the description box. In Part 2, I'll cover a lot of aspects of moving out, including looking at apartments, how to actually move out, and also furnishing your new apartment or home. I also will briefly cover finances and other miscellaneous adult things that come up like insurance, because there's a lot of confusion around these topics and it's always better to be a little bit more informed than underinformed. I'll really only be able to scratch the surface in a lot of these topics, so a lot of individual research on your own is also really recommended to get a full understanding of these topics. That being said, let's get started and talk about moving out. Moving out on your own for the first time is going to be pretty nerve-wracking. In some cases, you can kind of consider moving to college as something similar, but when you're moving out on your own, you don't have the safety of a college town or college dorm, etc., to really help you get situated and figure out what's going on in that neighborhood or city. You don't have the safety blanket of your whole college experience, and instead you're just left high and dry in the middle of the city with no friends and no plans as well. Or maybe that was just my experience. I want to break this up into a couple categories, and the first category will be finding an apartment and signing a lease, and then I'll also cover a moving checklist, and then third will be all about furnishing your new space. Let's talk about finding your first apartment. In terms of finding an apartment, there are a lot of websites out there that can be really helpful, and ones that can also be a little bit detrimental. Apartments.com, apartmentfinder.com, Zillow, Redfin, Trulia are just some of the apartment finding websites or apps out there that you can use. Each of them will have their own pros and cons, although I've mostly heard of apartments.com or apartment finder as being pretty much the same, and they also are just more useful when you're looking at apartments specifically. And if you're looking more on the home side of things or townhouses, then you'd be in better luck if you wanted to look on Redfin or Zillow to see if anyone is renting their townhouse or house, or even selling their townhouse and house, and you are in a good financial position to buy these. Trulia is a specific app that I found helpful because it breaks down a lot of different stats like crime rate, walkability, etc. that I didn't really find easily accessible on any of these other websites. So you'll kind of have to experiment with what apps work for you and how you want to set up your finding method. Generally though, I would start with the location in mind. So for example, if you're moving to the greater Seattle area, you can think about U District or Fremont or South Lake Union or SLU. From there, you could go ahead and view all the different apartments that are available and start to compare the different prices, floor plans, amenities, benefits, whatever matters to you. You may also find it really helpful to actually look at reviews from people who have lived in these places. So you can go to Yelp, apartments.com, and Apartment Finder also have user-submitted reviews. And of course, Google also has their own source of reviews that you can check out if you're interested. When you're starting to get serious though and narrowing it down to just a handful of apartments, say 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, it may be handy for you to start calling these apartments and inquire a little bit more about specifics. I'll have on screen a list of the questions that I like to ask, and I'll also go through each of them briefly here. So the first is going to be rent price and utilities. Rent is obviously something that's very important when you're considering apartments, and the price of the apartment will definitely vary depending on what layouts / floor plans are available. And also the location of your apartment can also adjust the price. So for example, if you have an apartment on the 5th floor versus an apartment on the 1st floor, those could have dramatically different prices and be about $100 to $300 difference per month. It's also important to ask about utilities that are covered and what utilities aren't covered, because sometimes you'll go through an external utilities provider and sometimes you'll have your apartment handle it all. Generally, apartments are going to be pretty small, especially if you're looking at a studio or 1 bedroom, so having extra space is always essential for me. For a lot of big items like Christmas trees, it can be hard to store those in your home, so one thing that I've really started to ask now is to see if there are oversized lockers in which we can store these items, or another storage solution that we can place our large oversized items into. You also want to factor in transportation. If you have a car, how much does parking cost and what are the parking options that are available to you? Or if you have a bike and like to get around by bike, do they have safe bike storage located inside your apartment as well? Usually when I'm calling, I also have a floor plan in mind, and I would also encourage you to come in with a floor plan in mind as well, because it'll prevent you from getting shopped around by the people that you're calling, and it'll help you have a better idea of if this apartment is really for you or not. Sometimes we can fall in love with a very specific floor plan or layout of our apartment, and if the floor plan isn't as expected, then that can really be a deal breaker for a lot of people. I also care about having AC, so that's something that I ask about. And then finally, I also ask about trash chutes because I found that living in an apartment, it can be really annoying if you have to go all the way downstairs to just throw out your trash. And having these kinds of chutes in each floor of your apartment building can save you a lot of time. These are all the questions that come top of mind for me and help me make a general decision about an apartment and whether I'm interested in exploring more about it. You also really want to pay close attention to the neighborhood. The surrounding neighborhood really dictate if you enjoy going outside or not, and it also really just determines if you need a readily form of transportation like a car. If the neighborhood is pretty walkable and you have everything you need in sight, then it can be more feasible to think about going carless, but you also want to factor in your commute to your job or whatever you may be doing. So car costs can really add up, so when you're looking at budgeting for an apartment, keep a lot of these things in mind. If you've narrowed down your apartment search to just 2 or 3 apartment buildings and you're really torn, then doing an in-person tour is probably going to be your best bet. It'll really help you get a lay of the land, see how much natural light there is, and maybe make you reconsider your options if something just doesn't really work out and it's not as expected. Once that's all said and done and you have an idea of which apartment you want to lock in, apartments will usually perform a credit check on you, which can be a hard inquiry and pull down your credit score. Really though, they just want to see that you're a trustworthy lender and that you have some sort of credit history. Coming from a student perspective though, it can be hard if you don't have credit established, and you may need your parents or significant other to maybe co-sign with you, and that just means that they're willing to take on the risk of a late apartment payment, for example. If proof of income is an issue and you can't prove that you have, say, 2 times or 3 times your apartment's rents as income, then you can also provide an offer letter as a proof of income. Most apartments I've heard of will accept this, but your mileage may vary. You can also try to negotiate your rent price, and this kind of just works similar to any sort of other negotiation. I haven't tried anything like this before though, so I'll have to do a little bit more research here before really providing solid advice. Holistically though, the apartment search is going to move pretty fast, and a lot of apartment buildings will be off and on the market before you know it. If you really have one that speaks to you and that you've really fallen in love with, then it may be in your best interest to move quickly and lock in that apartment before anyone else gets a chance to. Now that you have a place in mind and you have hopefully set a move-in date, we can also start to talk about moving out of your current space. When moving out, there are really 3 time frames to keep in mind. You have 1 or 2 months out, 2 weeks out, and 1 week out / the day you really have to move out. When we're looking at 1 or 2 months out, the main thing that I recommend is just declutter. Regardless of how long you've lived somewhere, you start to accumulate a lot of products that you think you didn't need, or the need just somehow popped up to get that random 5-foot tall plush bear from Costco. It doesn't really matter what it is, just as long as you think that you don't need it anymore, try to either donate it or sell it. Really clean out your closets and dig through the unorganized mess of cords and wires. When it comes down to it, you just don't want to be lugging garbage around with you across the country, and plus you get the fun of Mary Kondoing everything before you move out. You'll probably also want to clean out your pantries and get rid of any unused food, or just food that hasn't been touched in a while, or food that has gone bad. If you have any unopened food or non-perishable foods, consider donating to the local food bank near you, because food banks would always love to take some of your donations. Plants will also be really hard to move, so if you've established a plant oasis in your apartment and you're moving cross country, a lot of moving companies won't actually move your plants, so either consider rehoming them or finding some way to bring them with you personally. You may also find it helpful to start slowly packing things that you will eventually need but don't need at this moment, such as clothes for the opposite season. So if it's summertime now, you can start packing your winter clothes. This will save you a lot of stress later down the road, and you also have a head start on packing some of your items, which can also reduce stress. 2 weeks out, we're getting a little bit closer to when you actually have to move out, and it's a little bit more of a crunch time. You'll want to be notifying any services that you're moving out. This can include utilities, food delivery, insurances, cleaning services, the gym, and seriously, the gym is going to be the most annoying if you don't cancel it now. So just go to your gym and talk to them and say you want to cancel your membership, or you get to be dragged along on the phone saying that you can only cancel your membership in person, yada yada yada, and end up paying an extra hundreds of dollars in fees while you're not using their gym. So you also want to look forward and set up new utilities at your new apartment. hopefully the process is pretty easy. I know that in the greater Seattle area, you can set up all your utilities remotely online through just the company website. Of also great importance is figuring out where all your necessary documents are, including your passport, driver's license, other forms of identification, social security card. Make sure you put these somewhere safe because in the hassle of moving, things can get easily lost, and these are not items that you want to get lost. Now, the main thing here 2 weeks out is if you're not driving everything to your destination, you'll want to figure out how you're moving your items. You will probably be shipping them, and with that will come a lot of headache. And when you're looking at using a moving company, you'll also want to carefully pack your boxes and definitely label them. Labeling will make the moving process a lot easier. You know exactly which boxes go where, and also ensure that you generally have the items you need to go in that space. So for example, if you have 2 boxes of kitchen items, I would write kitchen 1 out of 2 on one of them and kitchen 2 out of 2 on the other box. The process of also placing items into this moving truck is also important. It's going to be a last in, first out kind of situation, so all the boxes that you place last in the truck are going to be moved out first. So I would consider making a box of essentials that get moved out first, and this can include toiletries, kitchen utensils, plates, silverware, etc. Now we're a week out. You're actually starting to move out, so I would contact anyone that you need for your security deposit back or any other deposits you may have made over the course of your time living in your current space. You'll also want to set up your personal carry-on or backpack of items that you're going to bring with you. Also set up a change of address through the USPS system to make sure that any mail that is intended for you will get rerouted to your new address. I also want to stress that this should only cost you $1, not $40 or $100. So any other services claiming to help change your address for more than $1 or so is definitely not legit. Once you've settled in, if you still need to change any addresses like your credit card billing address, then do that now. You can also consider switching over your driver's license and license plates if you've moved states as well. So that was the whole move out process. Now let's talk about furnishing your apartment. I'll assume that you have very few things that are brought with you and you're basically starting fresh, but you can also just incrementally take this advice as appropriate. You can also technically start to order furniture and other items to your apartment before you get there. This will just save you a few days of shipping and processing time and make sure that you get your furniture just a little bit faster. First things first, you'll probably want a mattress. In this day and age, there are tons of mattress companies that will ship directly to your door, and it'll make it really easy for you to just bring that mattress home instead of having to lug it all the way from a retailer. I have personally only tried the Zionist mattresses and bed frame, but I really enjoyed them and they delivered with Amazon Prime as well, so I got them really quickly. Costco also has a great selection for starter furniture that can be bought and delivered also to your door, but you can also pick it up if you have a truck of some sorts that make it easy for you to do that. Costco's furniture is definitely on the higher quality side, and for the price that it's at, it really can't be beat. Their prices will be a lot lower than any other prices you see elsewhere for that particular quality. They usually won't have extremely modern decor, so if you're really into modernism, then I would probably stray away from Costco. But I have a great adjustable height desk from there, and this couch is also from Costco, and I'm sure that I have tons of other items that I bought from Costco as well, and they're holding up really well. Otherwise, the essentials that you really want to have figured out are probably going to be a desk, a chair for your desk, and some sort of kitchen/dining situation. If you're in more of a financial crunch, then a desk may not be as important because you can always work from the couch or work from the kitchen counter, for example, or a dinner table if needed. Other stores that may have cheaper furniture that I would recommend include Wayfair and Amazon if you shop carefully, and of course IKEA. There are tons of videos out there on YouTube that show you how to dress up different IKEA pieces, so IKEA isn't always going to be the worst for decent quality furniture. With the everything shortage going on now in the pandemic though, a lot of furniture items can be back ordered and can take weeks if not months to arrive, so it may be in your best interest to start looking a little bit earlier and see if the items that you really like are going to be back ordered. Another tip here is to just decide if a piece is going to be an investment or just something that's cheap and temporary. You can usually get away with cheap bookshelves, for example, because no one's really investigating your bookshelves, and as long as they do their job of holding some sort of weight on them, then they're probably good to go. However, on the other hand, if you're working from home all the time, then a nice office chair will be a worthwhile investment because you'll be spending 12 hours of your time in that single chair every single day. So the next topic that I want to tie into here are finances, which goes well with our previous conversation about furnishing an apartment. The general rule for your finances is the 50-30-20 rule. So the 50-30-20 rule breaks it down into saying you spend 50% of your money on your needs, so living costs, groceries, car maintenance, etc. 30% on your wants, so just random spending, frivolous money, and 20% on savings or other financial goals that you have, such as paying off debt. This is a pretty generic budget, and not all budgets are made equally. If you're really lost though and just want to get started, then the 50-30-20 rule is a pretty good way to go. If you really want to dive in though and do your own calculations, then I would create a budget based off your past 3 to 6 months of expenses. Obviously, this is going to be kind of difficult and made a little bit more complicated if you're just moving in, because I assure you that you'll have tons of expenses just randomly coming in that you didn't expect to have. For these initial months, I would recommend you just budget a little bit higher than expected, because you'll feel better to be under budget than just always hundreds of dollars over budget. Another rule here that people like to suggest is that your rent should be no more than 30% of your take-home pay. And this just helps to keep living costs reasonable, so you're not chucking just tons and tons of money into just rent, which is money you'll never get back. If you're prone to overspending and really just making poor financial choices, or you're just a huge impulse shopper like I can be sometimes, one suggestion here is to really research the items that you're buying and consider if A, do you want to support this company, B, do you really need this item, and C, is this item going to last or be a worthwhile investment? I can be really guilty of making purchases that are just impulse purchases and end up being items I don't really need and end up just regretting buying them in the first place. By building up a habit of researching your purchases, you'll make it a little bit more harder to just do those random impulse buys, and generally, I think you'll find yourself just buying better and better pieces that actually matter to you. Next, I just want to do a really quick talk on savings. So savings can be broken up into a number of different accounts, but mainly you'll have a few large accounts. Your 401k or 401k is going to be a company-sponsored retirement account. You'll put in money from each of your paychecks up to a maximum of $19,500 per calendar year. Your employer will also usually have some sort of match or some sort of benefit for contributing to your 401k, and this just means that they'll also put in money for you putting in money into your 401k. There are also two types of 401ks. One is a Roth 401k, which means that you put in your money after tax and then your savings grow tax-free. There are some caveats, however, such as a mega backdoor Roth or just a normal backdoor Roth, but I'll save that for a different video or a different financial channel to really cover more in depth. And there's also a pre-tax 401k, which means that you contribute your money pre-tax and you get taxed when you take that money out of your retirement account. There are pros and cons to both, and a lot of people are pretty split, but if this helps, your employer match will usually be to your pre-tax 401k, so do with that information what you will. Next is going to be an IRA account or individual retirement account. This can also be broken up into a Roth and a traditional IRA, and I believe that it's the same kind of understanding of either getting taxed on your income now and contributing that tax money, or contributing pre-taxed money and then paying taxes on it later. But for contributing to IRAs, you have to make below a certain income, and once you've passed the income threshold, you can no longer contribute to your IRA. As of 2021, the contribution limit is, I believe, $6,000 per calendar year. Without the income limit though, there are ways to get around it, such as a backdoor Roth or a mega backdoor Roth, and I won't talk about that now, and I will save that for a different financial video or just a different financial channel. Last, you also probably want to open your own personal investment account and a personal savings account. Your personal investment account will be a place from which you can buy individual stocks or ETFs or index funds, and this will be a great place to park some of your short-term savings in case you need to withdraw from it for whatever reason. Your personal savings account will usually have a pretty low interest rate, such as 0.5% or even 0.01%. And so this is definitely not the place where you want to be storing a huge hoard of cash, more so just an emergency savings fund where if something happens and your car breaks down, you have that extra money to get you through the situation. This is kind of just my philosophy as well, and it won't apply or be great for everyone, but take it with a grain of salt and also explore other financial channels to see what they recommend. This last section is just going to be miscellaneous things to get sorted once you're living on your own. First is going to be insurance. Your job will usually be providing you with benefits, and one of those main benefits is going to be some sort of insurance for your mental, dental, and other care. So legally, you are allowed to stay on your parents' insurance until you turn 26. So if you either don't like your new company's insurance or you can't have insurance offered by your employer, then you can choose to stay on your parents' plan for now. With respect to insurance, there are a few terms here that are helpful to break down. And I also won't provide too much opinionated advice here because I don't have that much experience. So the deductible is going to be the max amount of money that you'll have to pay in a year before your insurance company starts to kick in and paying for your costs. The premium is going to be the amount of money that you pay each month to the insurance company for simply offering you this insurance. The two insurances that you will probably have to choose between will be an ADHP, which is a high deductible health plan, or a PPO, which stands for Preferred Provider Organization. Depending on your insurance offer, a lot of this may or may not be true, but typically preventative care is covered by insurance regardless of which one you choose. The main difference with ADHP and PPO comes down to how much you're actually paying out of pocket. With an ADHP, or again, high deductible health plan, it's stated in the name that you'll have a pretty high deductible, which means that you'll have a higher out-of-pocket cost until your insurance starts to kick in and pay your medical costs for you. With an ADHP, you also get access to an HSA or health savings account. This is a triple tax advantage account, which you can contribute a certain limit of money to each calendar year, and you don't have to pay any taxes on putting money in, and you don't have to pay any taxes on taking money out of it. The idea behind pairing ADHP and HSA is that if you're relatively young and you don't have very many medical costs, or you don't foresee high medical costs in your future, then you can just contribute money to your HSA, let that money compound, and just pay small fees out of pocket. You can save your medical receipts for the future and just pay yourself back using this HSA after your money has compounded. For a PPO plan, or again, Preferred Provider Organization, this gives you access to a network of in-network providers that will provide you care at a lower discounted rate, and you'll also have just generally a lower deductible, although your deductible can still be pretty high with the PPO. I won't advocate for one or the other because it really just depends on your situation, but generally if you're visiting a lot of specialists frequently, then looking at a PPO plan may be a better value for you if you don't want to pay all these costs out of pocket upfront. Another thing to note is that your insurance may have a separate medical card and a separate pharmacy pickup card, so keep that in mind when you're picking up prescriptions, because this is something that I definitely didn't realize, and I was paying out of pocket for all my prescriptions until I realized that I actually did have a pharmacy card that would help cover some of my prescription costs. It would also be in your best interest to start reading about your medical insurance coverage. So what does that coverage look like for mental health, or massages, or physical therapy, etc. Lastly, when it comes to taking care of yourself, you can ask your doctors in wherever you lived before for referrals to providers in the area that you're now living in for easy recommendations. However, if you're looking on your own, then I would just take your time to skim through different doctors and see what works for you. But I would also note that doctors are surprisingly booked up really far in advance, so keep that in mind as well when you're scheduling. I know that moving to a new city can be pretty terrifying, so I hope that you have a very smooth and successful move and also find yourself settling in really quickly. That's all I can think of in terms of really important information that I wish I knew earlier, or just information that I think will be really handy when you start to navigate starting a full-time job and accepting all these different benefits. I may also make a follow-up video to this if there are more questions, but in the meantime, just leave them in the comments down below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you here again next week for a brand new video. Bye.